All right, but we can cut this part out. But do you have any video editing software?
I do.
Have you had any interest in like doing that?
I've been practicing.
Oh, you have?
I have.
I mean, that'd be really fun if I think eventually if we were able to like throw up just like leaderboard stuff or whatever we were like talking about. Dude,
Yeah.
the apple, is that the same apple from Wednesday or
Well,
whatever?
it is actually.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's the same type. It's a. I've been into sugar beet. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a Fiji boy before, and now I'm a sugar bee.
I'm a Honeycrisp guy. You ever
Those are
dabble?
really good. Yeah.
They're
Oh,
I think they're
definitely dabble.
expensive.
They're very expensive.
But they're big. Like it's
Yeah.
like a 2 meal apple.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. They're, I mean, apple a day is my thing.
Dude, I thought of a really funny intro for our podcast,
Uh
but I can't remember what it is.
huh.
I think
That's
it was
classic.
Oh, it was just it was, hey, welcome back to the everyone else is wrong and we're the only ones who are right about
Yeah.
CrossFit.
Oh yeah,
podcast.
of course.
Obviously. In current news since the last filming, HWPO's videos still stink.
They still suck. Yeah.
Um,
You got a haircut.
I got a haircut. You got a haircut.
I got a
too.
haircut.
Yeah, haircuts all around. Brought to you by, I went to Great Clips, I think.
Oh, I went to Funky Monkey.
Funky Monkey.
Yeah.
Worth shout out.
Dude,
Shout out.
I mean, so once upon a time in November it was $35. And I would brag about $35.
What do you mean? Like it being cheap?
Yeah.
Huh?
Guess what? $50.
$50.
What is that for a haircut?
I mean,
Everything's just $50 now. It's like the new $20.
I hear you. I mean, here's what I'll say. When I walked out of there, I looked Amish. They had me like this, and I was like saying Rumspringa and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was $19.
Now that's nice.
I know.
Did they get the shampoo?
No.
Oh, see, I
So,
got the shampoo.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I definitely will say I'm at a point where like I would pay $10 for shampoo. Like, I guess when I think of it like that, where it's just like, would I, if I was holding a $10 bill and I would be like, can you shampoo my hair? Like, it feels that good.
It did feel so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Especially laying back in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She uses like a mint soap, so it's all like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know.
It was great.
Dude, I need another haircut.
You need to go back.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dude, we're ducky-less.
I know. We'll call him over here
All right.
in a minute. All right, let's jump into it. So the Open is officially over. It was over a couple days ago when we did our last podcast.
It was, yeah.
Dude, I actually had a whole bunch of notes too on that training think tank episode you sent me.
You like that, yeah. So that concept's cool, right? Where it's like 10 minutes and
Yeah.
everyone has that like short span of time to get their point out.
It was really interesting, but also I kept being like, oh, I wish you would talk more about this. I
Yeah,
wish you'd talk more about this.
That's the hook though, right?
Yeah, but then I'm like, are they going to follow up to it?
I know.
Yeah. Well, or maybe they just want you to give them money or something. Like,
Or it's like where they drive community in the comments. It's like, hey,
yeah,
and that way the topic can be continued on.
that's where you have like 30x the knowledge I do, is because I just am not really on social media that much.
Yeah.
And so when you're like drive the community in the comments, I'm like, dude, I never even thought of that. Like,
Well, you know how you can look on your phone to see how much time you spend on a certain something or an app?
yeah,
I average 40 hours a week of
I
YouTube.
did, yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's so sad to say that, but like that's like some people read, some people
have a job.
Yeah, some people have a job. For me, not me. I'm a YouTuber.
I hear you.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
It's bad. Some
Yeah.
weeks are 60. It's like the week that I had my appendectomy.
Well, I mean, yeah, when you have a
I
surgery,
logged 60 hours
if you're not-
of YouTube.
if you're not putting in some overtime on the TV when you're having a surgery, then you're
Yeah.
not trying.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got a job, right, where you can play it while you're driving.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to watch YouTube while we're driving, but
Well,
you know,
yeah, don't do that.
or while you're doing work and stuff.
That is
Yeah,
true.
so I mean, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. So we're gonna do basically today. The title of our video is going to be, "What do I do with my open performance?"
Ooh,
Yeah,
I
you
like
like that?
that.
Yeah. What do I do with my open performance? And the idea is, no matter how you do in the open, it's a test, and when you get your results from a test, whether it's good or bad, it lets you know where you are.
Right.
Who got first place? Was it Jon overall? Jon Koski?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I actually want to talk about him. Super impressive. But unless you're Jon and you scored 100, meaning first place, you got something you can grow on, right? And then even arguably even he could grow on something. So the goal of this today is that we talk about how do I kind of like look at my 3 workouts,
Mhm.
figure out ways I can actually go about training to, fill in gaps or capitalize on strengths for next year or just for getting better at CrossFit in general.
This is a big topic, right? Because a lot of people only want to work on things they're good at because it makes you feel good. And when
Yeah.
you talk about things that we're going to talk about today, it's like, oof, that doesn't seem fun.
Yeah. That's a good point. And that'll actually bring me into kind of like I would say like the base of the pyramid
Yeah,
on my argument today is the best thing you can do to get better at the open is just like do CrossFit.
sure.
I mean, I'm not one to say for most people you don't need to special they're not good enough where they need to specialize and really highlight certain activities. We're going to talk about that at the end. But for most people it's like, hey, by going to class, doing just good CrossFit workouts throughout the year, the your your tide is going to lift your
Oh,
all your different weaknesses and
yeah.
yeah. And so um the good news is it doesn't have to be, hey, you've got to hammer like this movement every
Mm,
single day.
yeah.
It could be, hey, just work out, don't avoid certain things, and you'll get a lot better over time, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just takes
yeah.
some time. So yeah. Cool. So kind of we'll use you as like a little reference because I think that you're
Mm,
in your open scores just as an example. I think you're a really good example because uh, you had what I think a lot of people experience, which is you have a workout that you did not do as well as you wished,
yep,
one where you did really well,
yep.
and then one where you did like pretty well.
Mid.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, is that you'd say that's
Oh,
accurate?
that's
Yeah,
accurate. Spot on.
and you're specifically in that order. So 24.1,
Hmm.
say performed worse than you had hoped, or
Yeah,
not a good workout for you, whatever, however you want
yeah.
to put it. Workout number two, 24.2, did a lot better than average,
It was
or
written for me.
yeah, good workout, crushed it. And then three, I would say you did really well, but score wise, like was slightly above kind of your other, in between the two,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
good, bad, medium,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about you specifically for the workouts and kind of like what could we do going forward, just kind of to have someone as an example. Um, Basically, like if we're talking about our pyramid and like working our way up, right? At the base, it's like, hey, just do CrossFit. Like
Yeah.
you'll get better in all open workouts by just doing CrossFit. Kind of to specialize on that a little bit, level one kind of approach to interpreting your open workouts would be, hey, let's like narrow it down by time domain and then get better at those certain time domains. So we could look at yours and say, okay, and we've talked a lot about this in our 2 previous episodes, like your first one was just a tough workout for you because it was a short to medium time frame of just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we can do is say, okay, you should highlight 8 to 12 minute workouts. And that's really simple. Um, Kind of subcategories there of like, how do we do that? I always say, let's keep it simple first before we start adding in like more layers.
Hmm.
One thing I was thinking about you specifically today, like that workout, in my opinion, is the equivalent of like running a mile, or if you're really fast, like a mile and a half.
Yeah.
It's basically like starting gun goes off, you're going to run for 10 minutes, and it's going to be an all out effort. You don't, when you're running a mile for time, you don't walk some, jog some, sprint some, right? You are trying to go as fast as you can the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at the very base, it could be like, hey, get some like 8 minute runs in, like learn how to move fast continuously for the entire time.
Right. So simple as possible. Go during that time duration of what you're talking about, but like it's not 70%, Ryan. It's hey, this is
Yeah.
intensity's high, 8 minutes.
Yep. You got it. That would be the easiest thing to do is just be like, hey, I'm just gonna do some like 8 to 10 minute runs, monostructural. From there, you can obviously add in like actual CrossFit, like couplets,
Mhm.
triplets,
Mhm.
4 movements, but anything that's going to keep you in that like 8 to 12 minute range. Obviously, just trying to hammer that time domain.
Yeah.
We could lay that out into the other 2 workouts and say, okay, if we've got a long one, which you did really well on, obviously, if someone didn't do well on that one, you can just practice long workouts. Like you may just not have the fitness to go really hard for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm curious, did you see anyone, or can you think of anyone specifically that's like, hey, you just need like kind of the opposite of you, that's like, hey, you need help with your longer workouts?
Oh, I'd say I'm the inverse of most people. Some
Uh-huh.
people are really good at just like going fast for short periods of time, but they don't quite understand. It could be that they're not been in the game long enough that like all the longer workouts are just smaller bits of going hard, but times however many long the workout is. So like for that workout specifically, I was just trying to hold X amount of minutes per round. But it's not quite at like 90 to 100%, but that's why it was okay for me because I could hold that 75 to 80% and not budge from that and just continue to repeat it over and over.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think you're definitely kind of the anomaly of the traditional person at the local box. You probably moved at the same pace for the first workout and the second workout.
I did.
It was just that this one was shorter, and then this one benefited you being able to move that fast for 20 minutes instead of 10, right?
I know I did, yeah.
So what I would say is, most people are going to struggle with being able to keep up intensity over 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's going to look like a big effort from the beginning, basically 6 to 17 minutes into a 20-minute workout. They're going to be like gasping for air, taking huge breaks, chalking up. It's going to be ugly. And then they're going to maybe have a little kick in the last 2 minutes. Then, it's like, does that feel like it worked? I don't know. I kind of broke that down into 2 categories. One is what we've been talking about. Hey, do we have the fitness to do a 20-minute workout? Mm-hmm. Like, can you do a 5K without walking? Mm. Can you row a 5K without like having wildly large variations in pace?
Yeah.
I know people when the gym programs a 5K row that they either skip or they dread it, and they just dread moving for 20 minutes consistently. And
I'm so excited for those days.
Yeah, me too. I love them.
I love those days.
I think that there's a reason to be like, if you know that you're the type of person that, hey, no matter what I'm doing, 8, 10, 12 minutes in, you're toast. Hey, clear sign. Let's work on our 20 plus minute fitness.
Yeah.
And then to go back to, go look at my notes here. As we're adding in complexity into that training. So let's say for you, we're going to work on our short to medium term workouts, our 8 to 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. As you're going from, hey, like maybe I'll do just a little couplet of like some fast runs, some overhead squats, whatever, just an example.
Okay.
What we're also building besides fitness is experience. So you're learning, hey, this is what it feels like to move at a faster pace for a short period of time. Because obviously we just talked about your problem is you move at the same pace probably for a short and a long workout. So it's like, okay, we need to bring that pace up and be like, oh man, this is kind of like a gear I don't normally tap into.
Yeah.
But then you learn how that feels, and that's something that we train over time.
Okay.
Right? I think another way of describing that is saying, we could pick a movement specifically like burpees. Burpees were used in that workout. Hey, like, what's your burpee pace in a 5-minute workout, and then what's your burpee pace in like a 20-minute workout? It's different, right?
Yeah, the cadence is definitely different.
Yeah, the cadence is definitely different. So let's practice our burpees at a fast pace, because they may come up in a workout where it's 20 minutes long and you got a lot of burpees. They may come up in like 18.2 when it's burpees, dumbbell squats, 5 minutes, right? So you got to understand that movements specifically have different paces as well. And it's just something that takes time and experience to kind of develop.
How about type of burpee?
Yeah. Honestly,
because I would say that like burpee box jump overs and bar facing burpees, I'm pretty up there.
Mm-hmm.
Make it so that it's like a bar over burpee or a dumbbell, like bar over dumbbell, like, or even just a regular burpee. I'm not great at.
Why? Because you got to go fast.
Because you got to go fast.
So let me ask you a question. If the workout was, let's say it's the exact same dumbbell snatch workout.
Yeah.
But instead of like 21 burpees over the dumbbell, what if it was just 10 over a box? Do you think you would have done like wildly better?
I would have destroyed everyone.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Because there's like a pace to it. I know where to breathe going over the box and like how to go faster. And I don't break down from that pace. Whereas like, it's like we talked about that small box that we were in. Like we need to practice staying in my little box and going fast as possible.
Yeah, this is a good conversation because what I would say is you're experienced enough to know this type of burpee I can do. You just said my pace on burpee box jump overs is as fast as anyone's,
Yeah.
and that's good. So now we just need to say, let's make your burpee to target, burpee over dumbbell, make
Yeah.
that one as fast as possible.
But I'm getting like 3 breaths, right, on the burpee
Yeah.
box jump over. Whereas where I'm going, I gotta practice the breathing. Like it's like,
Yeah.
where do I breathe when I'm just doing this little piece?
Yeah, I mean, that, in my opinion, is also the hard part of. I wish we had somebody here who was good at short workouts because
Yeah.
I'm not either. But that is why we have to practice things.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
Learn how to move fast and deal with it. Practice moving fast. It does get easier,
Mhm.
just as you get more fit. So yeah, I think that's like, kind of a high level approach is like, I'm good at this type of burpee, not good at this type of burpee. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I would say specifically for you, it's like, hey, let's practice some short to medium term workouts with requiring you to do burpees really quick. So,
How do you incentivize that though? Like,
yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, someone could say, hey, I didn't do well in open workout 24.1. I'm just going to do 24.1 every week for the next 6 weeks, right? That would make you fitter. It would make you certainly better at 24.1.
okay.
I would call that the laziest approach.
I think so. Yeah.
But we could start to say, okay, what part of that workout was hard for you? We talked about burpee speed. So let's kind of figure out, maybe from watching you do it, or maybe you just even remember, like, when did the burpees get hard and why? Could you not go faster because your shoulders were gassed from the dumbbell snatches and you felt like you were having to do like a downward dog every time to push off the ground?
Mhm.
If so, then let's just combo the burpee with a non-shoulder movement. So maybe we have you do front squat and burpee, gas the legs, let you really use your arms on the burpee. That could be an option.
Yeah, I think I would do well in that. And
Yeah.
then we'd slowly have to bring in the shoulder fatigue.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could do it through. We kind of work our way up. I consider dumbbell snatches a very shoulder heavy movement because most of us just muscle snatch them.
Mhm.
So an option would be we do like a pull up and burpee, because arms are hanging overhead, not getting a lot of blood flow, but
Right.
arguably it's a pull and a push.
Mhm.
So that may work for you. Another option would be if you were like, I was just gassed, my legs felt really heavy doing the burpees, then it's like, kind of work the other way around, where it's like, okay, how do we get your heart rate up first and then have you practice a lower rep of burpees? So let's say your pace really drops off at like 10 burpees. You're like, dude, I'm huffing and puffing, taking a huge break. Cool. Let's just have you do sets of whatever, run 10 burpees as fast as possible, get to recover on the run. And it's like, we make the goal, keep your burpee pace the same.
Fast. Yeah.
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 And then over time, you'd add volume to that. So I think that was 2 kind of ideas specifically to that.
So if we pick something, I should do it, and then we can see it, right?
And talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it once, and then I can just do some general fitness, and then I can pick like intentionally throughout the week if there's burpees, and I'll try to keep it to like my small area, and I'll have that same intention, and then I can, whatever we pick, I'll retest it X amount of weeks later. That way we can see if there's a change in thoughts and like a change in just like overall pace. And
totally. Yeah. Kind of 2 thoughts on that, and I think this will hopefully make this conversation applicable to our 15 viewers. For the person going to class who's like, I'm not doing my own programming.
Yeah.
So say you get a workout this week, shoulder to overhead, bar facing burpees. Guess what you're doing?
Yeah, of course.
Dumbbell burpees.
Yeah. No,
so just tweak little things. No one's going to care if you're doing that in a class.
Just tell your coach.
Yeah. Hey, I'm working on this.
Yeah.
Really easy way to stick in class. Other ideas are kind of to make this like applicable to real life. When you're looking at your week of programming or a day, pick a workout that is like, hey, this is a good test for me. And that way we don't have to make you do the same workout 3 times and be like, oh, did it get faster? Because it's hard to judge, did you get more fit or did you just get better at that workout? Like if you just do it 3 times, you may have just learned how to pace better and didn't really get fitter.
Yeah.
So what we could do is just look, most gyms probably have one workout a week, at least it's like 8 to 10 minutes.
Mhm.
We would just say, hey, make this your test. We're going to do this like a full send open treatment and just going to see how it feels and feel
Yeah.
like if you're gaining confidence in those, if you're not getting like buried by them, obviously that signals progress as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be time domain or task domain?
That's a good question. I think time domain is the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
Obviously, hey, 8 minute AMRAP, get as much as you can.
Okay.
You can monitor your heart rate for intensity.
Uh-huh.
Level 2 would be designing a workout that is going to be 8 to 10 minutes in range. So
Okay.
that's obviously a little bit harder to make the workout land in that time. You have to program it correctly.
Yeah.
I think obviously just doing a mix is best because we're going to get a mix in the open, right?
Yeah.
Some AMRAPs, some for times. So I think again, like level 1 of the pyramid here that was just get fitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like do everything, right? Keep it varied, and you'll kind of build this well-rounded fitness.
Okay.
Cool.
There's a 10-minute AMRAP of
This week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couplet ascending by 2 with front squats at 155 and chest to bar.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. That'll be a good one to gauge. For you, just kind of knowing you as like a chest to bar athlete.
Yeah.
And a front squat.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one that I would say just see how fast you can go for 10 minutes.
So don't even think about pace. Just put the
I would
hammer
say,
down.
like you need to pace those movements, right? Because those ascending ladder ones, when you get to 14 chest to bars and you've already done 60 something at that point, like that's a lot.
Okay.
But well, for some of us, it's a lot. But for you, I would say if I were you, I would treat that workout as, hey, this is a time where I'm going to just take my 10-minute pace and try to see how high I can make it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that ascending ladder will be will kind of suck you right into that.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say don't overpace. Just go.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's kind of move on here. I feel like I've made a billion sub points, but kind of okay. So point 1 was like focus on time domain, right? Are we bad at short workouts? Are we bad at medium? Are we bad at long?
Mm-hmm.
Part 2 would be, are we showing discipline in workouts? And I actually think this can be one of the biggest things that if you can really kind of like package the skill up of discipline, you will do well on any workout that comes your way.
Any. That's bold.
Let me say this, you'll do better than you would have done without discipline. And this is where I actually want to bring up, did you see the video someone combined? It was barbell spin. They did Jon Koski, Colton Mertens.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it, but I saw it.
So really, really impressive that Koski beats Mertens, because I think Koski is like, I think he's 5'10" or 5'11".
He's taller.
Not really good. You wouldn't say he's a thruster guy. He's a pull-up guy.
Yeah.
Honestly, he just wins the swim workouts at the
Yeah,
games.
true.
So he's not particularly good at one thing or another. What was so impressive, though, to me is every movement is going to take him longer than Colton. He also has really long arms. And so if you watch him finish a thruster overhead, it's a very long range of motion. His discipline was so good. It is.
What is speaking to that? Like, or not? What do you mean by that? Can you define that? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. An example of this is when people used to watch Rich Froning do thrusters, and he would take a breath with the bar overhead.
Yeah.
Most people would say, oh, it's 10 in a set. I'm going to do 10, drop it, hands are on their knees, taking a rest.
Okay.
Rich said, I know my sub-pacing so well that I can breathe overhead, bring the bar back down, and that's going to keep me moving at the same pace throughout the workout.
Correct.
I mean, what this can also look like is in 24.2, you can break up the deadlifts if you can stand there and just pick the bar right back up.
Yeah.
That's a really good strategy, but most people don't have the discipline to not like walk away from the bar or take a bunch of extra time before they pick the bar back up.
Yeah.
So I'll try to bring this back. Yonakoski won that workout because if you watch him, he didn't get sucked into, hey, let me do my thrusters as fast as possible, and then let me just kind of like try to, catch my breath a little bit, go do my chest to bar movements. He just moved super, super steady throughout the entire workout, and he won. And he beat a guy that was 6 inches shorter than him.
So can he do that in a non-open setting where there's other people around you and you can feel how fast they're going? Did it lend
Yeah.
himself? Was it in his favor that he was by himself doing it?
I think so, yeah. And because open workouts, couplets and triplets, they're very rhythmic.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find discipline in like a chipper
Okay.
other than just like, how are you breaking up like larger volume sets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he goes to the games, it's a totally different story because you're not trying to do well, you're trying to beat other people.
Sure.
So it's hard.
Yeah.
And that's why I think he'll win the open, but not ever win the games.
Okay.
Right. But strictly just talking about kind of like open performance, trying to be applicable to people that are, going to the local gym. Yeah, what does discipline look like? It looks like, in my opinion, knowing your pace and what's comfortable and what keeps you moving. So how do we minimize like lag time?
Yeah.
One really simple way people started doing this was put a piece of chalk in your pocket so you don't go to the chalk bucket.
Mm-hmm.
You saw these guys do this. Like Yonakoski finishes his thrusters. He doesn't even turn around to walk to the pull-up bar. He just backs up. And a lot of people did that.
Okay.
It wasn't specific to him, right? Thruster backs up, jumps up to the bar. Like minimizing extra steps that you take is discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, another way to think of it is like don't lollygag during your workouts.
Right.
The reason why this is hard and why I said though it can have such a big effect is because to have discipline and to not lollygag, you have to know what pace you can hold for an entire workout.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say your discipline in 24.2, perfect.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You maybe without even realizing said, boom, one more stroke on the rower, 2 steps to the barbell, picking it up, I'm breathing, whatever, I'm breathing at the top. It's micro pacing, right?
Sure.
3 steps to the jump rope. I could maybe do 1 single right into your doubles.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Lay the rope down. Like that's good discipline.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were able to do that in that workout because of how rhythmic it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, cool, how do you take that, package it up, and apply it to like 24.1, right? Like that's where it gets really hard.
It definitely
right?
does, yeah.
Or how do you package that up and do it in 24.3 where you have like high skill movements, right? Is that making sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. The hard part with discipline is I do think it's super workout specific, where it's like, hey, like where can I capitalize on little inefficiencies like in this workout? We did at Bull City on Tuesday of this week. We had a workout and it was super fun. It was 3-minute rounds. In 3 minutes, you did a set amount of strict pull-ups, did a 50-foot dumbbell lunge, and then maxed calories on the assault bike in the remainder of 3 minutes. I went because it didn't involve any hinging, and so I could do it.
You could full send it.
I could full send it. I went way too hard.
I bet. Yeah.
But the strict pull-ups for guys were like, it was like 18, 15. It was down by 3s.
Okay.
For 6 rounds. And then you got a minute 30 rest between rounds. So
We're
good workout. Yeah. Okay, so we had the gym set up where I'll kind of lay this out for you. Okay, our pull-up rig's right in the middle. Dumbbells were on this end for everybody to start. You lunged 50 feet all the way down to the other end.
Okay.
Which is basically like you would do your pull-ups, walk all the way to this side of the gym, pick up your dumbbells, lunge to the other side of the gym, leave them there, go find your bike, rest, etc. Okay, here's what I did. A couple people asked me, why did you do that? And I was like, why did you not do this?
Yeah.
I did my pull-ups on this end of the rig.
Okay.
So that I took 3 steps to my dumbbells, lunged all the way down. The next round, I did my pull-ups on this side of the rig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, why is everyone not fighting over this spot?
Yeah.
And what I'll say is, 1, it's a class. People don't really care that much, right? 2, we all subconsciously want the rest of walking to our dumbbells. And I would say, you don't need it. but like let's try to minimize what you need,
Right.
right? Like I know that I can do if I'm pacing my strict pull-ups correctly, I should be able to take 2 steps, pick up 2 dumbbells, lunge 50 feet,
Yep.
right? And so like let's overlay that into how we approach like every workout,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's kind of knowing like what you're good at, what you can pace, and how to like accelerate. And again, like just capitalize on inefficiencies in workouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. So what were your cows per?
Um, I was getting like in the mid 20s, like
Okay.
mid upper
What were
20s.
your RPMs? Do you look at watts or RPMs?
I'm an RPM guy. Yeah, it was honestly it was low. I came out hard. So I mean, the first 2 rounds, I think I held like 67,
Okay.
and then I think the last round I was at like 62.
Okay.
Um,
And how much time were you getting on the bike ish?
like 2 minutes, uh, which was good and bad because like
Two minutes. That's crazy.
I'm not in that great of shape right now, and so
Yeah,
2 minutes
yeah.
on the bike is kind of a lot for me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but
But so like the discipline that you're talking about, right? Is that how do we coach that? Like, I mean, we can point it out like there's stories like you're talking about, but like, how do we get it so that people are like, yeah, you're right. That is something that I can make a small change with, or like, how do we get it to be something that people are gonna bite?
yeah, good question. Are you talking about like if you're coaching a class?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's really hard, and it's kind of one of those things you have to experience to be like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Um, I would say one is like give someone a softball of a workout for them, and be like, hey, what about that went well for you, and
Mhm.
kind of get them to like approach,
Mhm.
So I'll use the example of running. Like, what's the most efficient way to run a mile? Like, well, run as fast as you can and don't stop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously walking is going to be slower than jogging, which is going to be slower than running. So it's like, okay, well, how do I run through my entire workout?
Mhm.
I mean, we did yesterday. Bull City's workout was Elizabeth, which is hard workout.
Mhm.
That is one where really important to have discipline, right? Because you're standing at a barbell, you're standing at rings, you're probably doing small sets. So I did try to have conversations with people like, your goal in this workout is to feel like you are always moving.
Mhm.
And I think why this is hard, but why it's such a powerful skill is that it requires that mental effort in the workout. Where
Okay.
it's you can't just coast through the workout and be like, oh, I got to the end. It's like, no, you have to focus.
Right.
You have to be like, I just did 3 squat cleans. Can I do 2 or 3? And then it's boom, I did 2. Okay, should I go to 1? It's just like
Right.
you
Right.
have to be in it all the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
And truly, I think there's some people that just aren't at the level of caring where they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But I do think that if people that want to do well in a workout will understand what that means, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I did have that one time with this one workout.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you think of any recent what would be a good workout for you where you're like, dude, I crushed the discipline on that workout?
I mean, the most recent one would be 24.2.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because you talked earlier about breaking the deadlifts. My break was I would do 5 on my 5th rep. As soon as I reached full extension, I would drop it down. But as it was dropping down, I was also hinging down to go grab it. And that was my rest period.
Killer. Yeah.
And it was just like those things you're talking about, just picking something with the rhythm and just sticking with it. And yeah, because it feels good when you set those sort of disciplines and you're like, I'm able to keep up with them. And then it's just, that's the incentive while you're working out, is that like I'm able to hit this every time and it feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll share a personal secret here.
Uh-oh.
But oh yeah, all 15 viewers, you guys can take this
and run with it.
I don't even think it's mine. I think I heard this on a podcast years and years ago. But okay, if I'm ever in a workout, and this includes when we were working out together.
Okay.
If we were ever in a workout and there wasn't a movement that was like intentionally designed to like blow up something, right? If it wasn't like 50 chest to bars, or if it wasn't whatever, like super heavy squats or something.
Okay.
Just think of your more classic Metcon. If I ever needed to take a break, I knew that as soon as I took 3 deep breaths, I could go again. No matter, and what I would say is, no matter how I felt, I knew I could go again, and I just learned that over time.
Yeah.
I had heard, hey, pick 3, 4, 5, maybe start with 7 before you go again. It's the same idea as like, do a set of pull-ups, go touch the wall. It just gives you
Yeah.
set discipline, right?
Yeah.
For me, I just learned 3 deep breaths. I was ready to do 95% of movements, just ready to go again.
That's impressive.
Well, and the interesting thing was a lot of times I would be like, no, I'm not ready. But the rule was 3 breaths. And so I would get up there, whatever it is, pull ups, thrusters, and it would work.
Okay.
It would be like I was able to, the fear is if I go too soon,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to stop again.
Then that's, yeah.
And that's bad. But I mean, I can't say every single time, but like I can't remember a time it did not work. And so that worked for me. So I think like finding something that's like, this keeps me moving is how you kind of dial in that discipline.
Yeah. But you heard here, I'm going to start trying the 3
breaths.
3 breaths. And I'm going to, see how it goes.
Yeah. It's, I mean, easy to test. Like pick your chest to bar front squat workout this week.
Yeah.
You do 10 front squats. That one may be hard, right? Because it is very like movement heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like 10 front squats, you're like on your set of 16, drop it, take 3 breaths, just say, hey, I'm going to go again, whether I feel like it or not.
Yeah.
And then see how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can kind of wrap this up here, but
what you got?
Oh, you know what? I do have a point that I want to make. I hate interval workouts.
I hate them too. There was one yesterday, and I didn't do it.
Yeah. Listen to this. I think they're super fun, and you don't think they're fun?
No.
You hate them? You hate everything about it?
I do.
Yeah. I think they're really fun. I was just talking about this one at Bull City that was like work. So interval just being time of work, time of rest.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Just for the idiots at home. I think that they can be really fun. I think that they are most of the time not programmed well enough to develop fitness.
Or people don't know how to do it, and that's why I hate them.
Yeah. It doesn't naturally pull you into going hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that it was done on Friday at my gym is that they did every 4 minutes times 5 with the idea that you would finish at the third 3-minute mark and you have a minute rest.
Yeah.
It just became an AMRAP for everyone.
Yeah.
That's not the point of interval work. And that's why it bugs me so much, because like people will see something on the board, we'll tell them like, hey, this is what you should aim for, and these are the weights that you should use to aim for that. But they just go for the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I'm doing an AMRAP now for 20 minutes. And that defeats exactly what you're trying to say as to why it could be so potent and so helpful in the first place.
Yeah. And then I would argue, even if you schedule it perfectly, it's like, well, what benefit did you get from that rather than just doing an AMRAP?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have an episode on like what affiliates are doing wrong.
That would be great, actually.
Yeah,
that could be like a segment. Like this week, what would we see?
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I will say interval workouts can be fun. They can be approachable, right? It's, hey, you're only doing a 3-minute on, 1 minute off. That seems more fun on paper than doing like a 20-minute AMRAP. But other than that, if you're trying to get better at the open, don't do them.
Yeah.
Intervals, in my notes, I said, only get to do intervals if you know why exactly you're doing it. And so
I like that.
Here's what I'd say for you, kind of going back to your how do I get better at burpees question. Can we overpay or increase your speed so much on burpees that you need a rest after?
Okay.
That's good to do sometimes.
Okay.
Like basically accelerate too fast to where you need a break. And now we're saying we're teaching you and teaching your fitness, I can move at a really fast pace, but then you get a break after, right? And then the idea is like over time we cut out the break, put in a rest movement, something that's easy for you, but super specific scenario where intervals can be useful. Other than that, it's just like, hey, you just wanted to rest, and don't do that.
You didn't need to rest.
Yeah, you didn't need to rest.
Yeah.
I know we were talking before we get started about Mayhem's big on the interval workouts.
They are.
I think theirs are also different because they normally do 8, 10, 12 rounds.
Yeah.
And the idea is there, how can we like safely get in a ton of volume of a movement without it just being, just do this over and over and over again. And that's kind of the only other scenario I see an interval being useful.
Yeah. And they're big on just like repeatability. Like, can you do exactly what you just did over and over again? And, or so that you're not like sandbagging it where like your last round you have like a lot of energy left, where like Luke got in trouble for running like that's not the point of the whole thing, right? You're supposed to give your same amount of effort each time, and that's gonna be important too.
Side note: make more videos of Rich yelling at Luke. Those are the best. Yeah,
Those are the
yeah.
best.
Did you see the most recent video of the toes to bar burpee box jump over workout?
I don't know. Tell me more about it. I might have.
Um, it literally came out like 3 days ago. Or maybe yesterday. Okay, 4 rounds each, 1-to-1 rest with a
Mhm.
partner. 10 toes to bar, 10 burpee box jump overs, 10 toes to bar, 10 burpee box jump overs, 10 toes to bar. So total, you're doing 120 toes to bar.
Yeah.
And they inserted Dom saying, hey, the goal of this is that as your hip flexion fatigues, you're still able to do doable sets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's perfect because it's hyper specific focus.
Mhm.
Like all we're trying to do is make sure that no matter how fatigued you are, you can always hit a set of 10 toes to bar.
Yeah.
Awesome workout. And the rest was needed to make sure that that could happen. Yeah, other than that, no intervals.
Yeah.
Unless you're mayhem, no intervals. Okay, we'll wrap this up here. Kind of like level 3, top of our pyramid of like, cool, how do I interpret open performance and get better is movement specific stuff. So it could be that you get in a workout and you're like, dude, I'm just bad at bar muscle ups.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think this was you. It could be, someone may say, hey, like I can do a bar muscle up or a couple, but after fatiguing my lats with 50 chest to bars, I can't. So
Yeah.
that's like, okay, let's add in training for like that combo specifically.
Right. Right.
And the reason I would say don't do this as like I think people go to this
Straight away.
They're like, dude,
I've seen it.
I did a bar muscle up like a week before the open, and then it came around, I couldn't do any, and I tried to chicken wing, it didn't work. And everybody's like, dude, you should do more bar muscle ups. Like, that's the obvious thing to do. And
Yeah.
the reason that's wrong is because we don't know how they're going to show up. And so if you're only training, how do you train it, right?
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. And so you need to, if you're trying to isolate like, hey, I did really bad after chest to bars and bar muscle ups. Should I just do chest to bars and bar muscle ups like all the time? It's like,
Yeah.
no, you need to do bar muscle ups tired.
Sure.
Is what you should work on. Or maybe it's you need to do them after like an overhead movement. Like we need to, people get too specific when they should just keep it broad.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
practice, I'm tired.
Yeah.
That's going to cover you in like 90% of scenarios.
Sure.
Right. Now it is safe to say like they do normally pull out the thruster and gymnastics pull combo. So like do some of that.
Yeah.
But we don't need to just be like, hey, you know what? Instead of this workout that had like pull-ups in it, I'm just gonna do bar muscle-ups because like I need to work on those, right? And then you just get some crappy like.
I guess that would lead to burnout. Maybe that's why, yeah, because you're trying to describe more of a way that you can have like a pyramidal approach where we're kind of graduating and like you can also even go forwards or backwards, but to where people are talking about how like I'm just gonna replace chest to bar muscle ups, you get tired of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can mix it up, change it up, and that way you're not getting burnt out.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about this the other day. Like, if this is our box that they draw at the level 1, and this is where you live with your skills.
Yeah.
And we're trying to expand that box and get better at more things, right? So maybe let's say right here inside your box we've got 10 unbroken chest to bars, but outside the box we've got 10 bar muscle ups.
Mm-hmm.
People think we move that line by doing 10 bar muscle ups. People love to try to move that line by saying, I'm going to do an EMOM of 10 bar muscle ups,
that's the
as
word.
if there's no other way to do it.
There's not, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll list out a couple other ways, because what that does is it will drag that line over,
mm-hmm.
but either burn out or you'll just get hurt because you're having to do so much volume.
Yep.
So what you can do is say, okay, how do I get better at bar muscles without just doing tons and tons of bar muscle-ups? Well, one, you could do drills, you can do accessory work. Mm-hmm. You could also do things that pre-fatigue your bar muscle-ups without adding more pulling. So like we could do a handstand hold, take all the blood out of your arms, then have you do like 3 bar muscle-ups instead of 10.
Yeah.
Really awesome way to make sure that they're really hard.
Yeah.
We could have you do an assault bike sprint, jack your heart rate up in 20 seconds, have you do 3 bar muscle-ups, rest 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways to get better at movements in a workout rather than just like doing the movement in isolation.
Yeah.
Kind of my rant over.
I
But
hate the Imami approach. Yeah,
yeah.
it's so bad.
Well, I get why people do it. It's simple, but it's simple can also be lazy. Of just
Simple's also the assault bike example you just gave.
well, yeah, simple, but sorry, I should say. I think that's kind of hard to come up with. Like, how do I balance? I mean, I understand why people do imams. It's like, oh, not good at this. I'll just do more, right?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, what else you got for us on the notes?
Let's see if we got anything else. You got anything else?
No, man.
Um, the only other thing I was going to say on the movement specific stuff is the open does expose where you have weaknesses with movements, and I think that there's a guy I know pretty well from the gym. Been working on double unders for a long time. They're always a struggle movement for him. He got to where he was like, dude, I can hit 50 unbroken like in any workout.
Oh,
Which is awesome. 24.2 comes around. He hits 50 unbroken 3-4 sets and then falls apart. Like just starts tripping. And the problem is he had never done that much volume. It was like, hey, you got good at the skill, but you weren't able to carry that over into like volume of the skill.
Yeah.
Another thing is like the to use the bar muscle ups again, like we have had I think the past couple of years like 30 bar muscle ups like in a row at the end of a workout. Was that
ish.
was yeah, ish, something similar to that. And then this year we had rounds,
right,
which is much different, right? And you have to learn how to do them under fatigue, not just like one after another. So I think it's helpful to look at your workouts and say, okay, like what is the movement combo that I struggled here? Why was I tripping on my double unders? Like whatever. Why did my row pace drop so much like the second half? Like do I row inefficiently? Is it rowing for me? Like rowing and deadlifts was a gnarly combo just because I had such a weak posterior.
Hinge.
Yeah, hinge. And so even though I was a pretty good rower, like you combo that with deadlifts, my legs blow up. So like for me, it would be, hey, like I need to work on like that combo of movements. But again, that's high level, right? Let's build the fitness, work on discipline, and then we'll talk about movement specific stuff.
I like that because then it becomes more achievable, and you're not just like thinking like, man, I just have to do bar muscle up EMOM every week.
Yep. Which for all you people out there who just started your bar muscle up EMOM, you bought your ebook on how to get what is it? Sally gets her first ring muscle up. Yeah. That was what I had. Thanks for listening to me rant today.
No, that was good, dude. You have a lot of like I wish people could like actually take what you're saying and run with it, because I think sometimes people hear what you say and they're like, "Oh, this EMOM's easier, right?" Because I mean, arguably it is, but like we just talked about, it's gonna lead to burnout. It's gonna lead to like hurting yourself, and also there's just better ways to add variance to get better at CrossFit, because that's literally what CrossFit is. It's constantly varied and
totally.
Yeah. So
yeah, the last thing I'll kind of say is I do think, and we talked about this, like the best perform well in the open because they're well rounded. And the training think tank video that was talking about the statistics and everything, like the leaderboard is set up to reward consistency.
Yeah.
Like if you get 75th percentile on every single workout, you're in like 90th percentile overall.
Correct.
And that's because most people are going to be jumping all around.
Yeah.
I actually want to talk about this real quick. I did a little scenario. So let's say you and I are at the same gym, and let's say we'll just say there's like 100 people at our gym, 100 males.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you do your 3 workouts and you take 10th on all of them.
I love that.
Mr. Consistency, right?
I got 30 points. Let's go.
Yeah, 30. He's got 30 points. 3 by 10, easy enough. Sticking with me. Let's say I take second on the first one. I just wiped the floor with you. Okay. Second on the first one, 9th on the second one. So I beat you.
Yeah.
And then I take a 20th on the last one.
I win.
So you do win. What am I at? 31. Right?
Yeah.
So if this scenario actually happened, I'm walking around going, yo, I hosed Ryan on 2 workouts. I am more fit than him.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, I had one workout where I didn't do like that well. I was still 20 out of 100.
Right.
But like if you're just looking at how the points play out, I think it's a good example of like, no, like consistency matters when we're adding the points.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's kind of back to the Hopper method, right? Where if you take a power lifter a marathon runner and a CrossFitter, and same thing you just described, and you look at the points across however many different tests or feats you give them, CrossFitter is always going to win.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the cool piece is, the more workouts you give them, the more that like consistency rises to the top too.
Yeah.
So like in that scenario, like the more you get 10th, the further we're going to separate, right? Because of the greater differential in points. So
and that takes discipline.
Takes discipline. For all those people whining about their placement,
dude, it takes a lot of discipline.
It does.
Because you got second on one, and I'm just going to be constantly comparing myself to you, right? Like, oh my God, I really wanted second or first. But it doesn't matter. Just do what you can.
Yeah.
And do it across all the breadth, the broad, and everything. It's going to be easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, you want to wrap it?
Let's wrap it.
Ducky, you ready to wrap?
Yeah, I think I just heard him snore.
Let's see if he's not.
He's not coming.
He's not coming. No, he's coming. We'll get a Ducky cameo and then we'll end it. Hey,
oh Lord,
you want to be in the video, Soldier Boy?
Oh jeez, what's up, big dog?
There you go, good boy. Okay.
All right.
That's a wrap.
See you guys.